Wi-Fi, babe. I need Wi-Fi. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Civic Lens Live. This episode we'll call it News from All Over the Nation, and we'll spend approximately an hour with you catching up on Kenyan news that's arriving at the table of the Civic Lens from all over parts of Kenya. So this will be political, economic news, social news. It's the only section where we do not record one particular item and we wait to upload, but we react to news as it comes from all over parts of Kenya to you in this live series. So I'm just opening my phone and there is a statement that has been made by Wahome. This is CS Wahome firing back at Gachagua. The top or the top title of the statement is "Stop Undermining Me." CS Wahome fires back at Gachagua. And the story is the land CS declares she will no longer remain silent as the former deputy president continues to attack leaders in Mount Kenya and beyond. There is a picture there. You can take a look of CS Wahome, and this is the short story. So I'll take like around a minute to read on the story and then we'll discuss it before we move to another story. So Lands, Housing and Urban Development Cabinet Secretary Alice Wahome has rebuked former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, accusing him of spreading lies and undermining leaders. She asserts that the former DP does not have the best interest of the Mount Kenya region or the country at large. Speaking at Muruka Shopping Center in Kandara constituency, where Gachagua had reportedly referred to her as a flower girl in President William Ruto's cabinet over the weekend, Wahome dismissed the remarks baseless and disrespectful. So that is the gist of the story, really. So let's take a look at it. You see, there are a certain number of cabinet secretaries kwa government William Ruto that most people do not actually really know them. And this is not a disadvantage to them because for most CS, there is really no much about coming into the public limelight. You are no longer a politician ukichukuliwa kama CS. So we have CS gender that is little known. There's this CS for land wenye watu wajajua sana. And I remember sometimes back when Liki Nyanjui was asked about why he was not making media appearances. Kuna time he came on TV and he said making media appearances actually just confirm you are not working, because when you are a CS then there is a lot that goes into planning the policies and delivering this, and you cannot ordinarily just be making public appearances. So other politicians now wamekuwa wakitreat these CS that do not show up in the public image as flower girls. And Gachagua has had this attack on this lady, CS Wahome, who is the CS for land. And finally, she has come out to speak clearly out of it, which reminds me of something. Earlier, there was an interview that Jeremiah Kioni did on TV47 that Gachagua allegedly is working with President Ruto. And he was quoted to say that he has the government in his hands and he can decide who gets what position where. So these allegations is around the time that Gachagua is discrediting Mount Kenya. The delegation of the Jubilee did not include any member of the United Opposition because, as they said, it was an delegate conference. And the other statements, like Jeremiah Kioni's statements that Gachagua could be working for the government, Gachagua is low-key losing credence. But we will take a look at Gachagua's stories later. Let's go on with another news feed. On this other news feed, Saudi investment institutions rally behind Kenya's affordable housing program. So there's the story there. Kenya's ambitious affordable housing program has received a significant boost from Saudi investment institutions, with two major development banks committing to support the government's housing agenda through strategic financing partnerships. The Saudi institutions' involvement provides both the necessary capital and the expertise to accelerate program implementation. You see, if you look at developments around most of the affluent estates in Nairobi right now, zenye come up na this whole idea of apartment development as part of the real estate, you will notice that the Kilimani area and the Lavington area is largely occupied by companies zenye zimekuwa formed by foreigners, having some directors who are locals and now doing business locally. So they are not really foreign companies, but they are local companies with foreign directors within them. And most of these foreign directors unapata ni Chinese, Indians, and the Saudi individuals. We have to give credit where it's due. When it comes to development infrastructure, the Saudi nation has topped the world and the Chinese nation on the developments of infrastructure zenye tumeona wakifanya on their end. You can take a look at the Dubai structures and you can see how the development on the housing infrastructure equal on the high end in the Dubai region, also with the Chinese region. So kuna one ambit of maybe investors or national interest in this housing infrastructure thing, this affordable housing thing. There's one bit of their directors when you feel kwamba the inclusion now of the Saudi government and the Saudi nation into this particular infrastructure development, italeta the expertise and the funding that is required. Of course, funding makes so much sense because Saudi is a country that is blessed and endowed with oil as a resource, and their economy is actually doing very well against the dollar. So kama wataingia kwa this particular partnership with the Kenyan government, then perhaps there is promise or hope for affordable housing when it comes to funding and expertise. But there's also concern, like if we give this strategic financing partnerships to these foreign companies, at what point will these infrastructures really come back to us? Because the biggest challenge we are facing as a country is that we do not have enough resources, or even our billionaires do not have enough resources to strategically fund the development projects of the government in a partnership platform. Unapata watu wanapewa these PPPs na government, most of them are foreigners because of their funding muscles. But there's always that fear, like there was with Adani. Like at one point, we will have taken our infrastructure to foreigners out there so much that the revenue that we are getting from this infrastructure, only a small bit of it trickles down back to our economy. So it's a concern, even as we appreciate the involvement of Saudi and China in our development projects. There is this story here on Shah where they are saying that 26 million Kenyans now have registered on Shah, and there is about 890,000 contributors from the informal sector and 4 million salaried contributors. So there is about 4.8 million Kenyans sahi who are paying into the contributory fund of SHA. So that's Masi Mwangangi, the CEO of SHA. She's saying that right now a total of 26 million Kenyans have registered into this new health fund. So sometimes back, the government made a move for people to shift from the old National Health Insurance Fund to the current Social Health Insurance Fund under SHA. Imekuwa na a lot of challenges. Kenya imekuwa ikiface challenges when it comes to education, tumekuwa tukiface challenges na the health sector. And now introduction of SHA and shift from NHIF to SHIF has brought with it some challenges. But this is the health sector, and it's one of the key tenets of the devolution that came into power in 2010 constitution. I remember some times back when I was reading a book on 50 years of medical practice in Kenya. It was a book that was consolidated by different practitioners in the medical spaces, and they were just detailing how the Kenyan medical space may change over a period of 50 years. There was a comment by Ngilu then when she was Yes for Health in 2002 that health is a very essential part of governance in haiwezi achwa kwa mkono ya private sector. So as much as there is a private sector infiltration into the health sector, or there is a private sector huge interest kwa health sector and private hospitals, generally health cannot be left just in the hands of the private sector. And so post 202, when Gilina was in that ministry, we saw a shift of the health sector coming from the private sector all the way to the public sector now under the hands of the government. Some years later, around 8 years after that transition, now the new constitution came into place, and now the health sector was coming from the national government into devolved units. But it's still a very essential part of our economy and governance structure, the health sector. So as much as kuna easy stories around SHA and the intricacies between NHIF and SHIF, the health sector being in the hands of the government is still a very important thing to ensure kwamba watu wengi sana across the nation wamekuwa na access to medical services. Now, that having been said, That having been said on the medical services and everything, this issue has a lot of people crediting or discrediting it. And now, this story here that we are being told by the CEO of SHA herself, Mercy Mwangangi, is that over 4.8 million Kenyans, with over watu mia elfu mia nane being unsalaried niggas paying into SHA and watu 4 million being the salaried contributing to SHA, inaonyesha kwamba this fund can have a standing moving forward. So we only hope to see how Duale handles it and the entire committee, and how it grows as an authority and as a fund. On to our other story. There's a story here that youth lead charge in reimagining democracy at Nairobi Civic Tech Hackathon. The story says that a recent hackathon in Nairobi saw young people stepping up to reimagine democracy through civic tech. Youth innovators created tech-based solutions aiming to strengthen democratic participation, enhance transparency, and tackle governance issues. The event emphasized inclusivity, making sure voices from marginalized groups, women, and those often left out were heard. Anyway, the story is long, but what they're talking about is a tech hackathon that show how the youth wamekuwa creative on how to ensure transparency kwa democracy and civic education through tech. Inanikumbusha sometimes back there was a lady that was abducted because alikame up na platform where people could actually see whatever was going on in the bill, with the bill that was intended to be fronted as the finance bill 2025. And the whole thing about her arrest and abduction was that she came up with that particular platform. Of course, inaonyesha how the Kenyan youth wamekuwa woke in the tech space, and it's something that is positively developing our democracy. Moving forward into 2027 and even beyond, I think systems of voting and systems of mobilization will transition from the traditional systems zenye watu walikuwa wakitumia to the tech how do I call it, to the tech era of doing things. And this will be pioneered by the Gen Z. So things like this are actually very positive, that the youth now are not just using their knowledge on tech and search for commercial subsistence gains. Na watu wanaanza kufikiria kutumia tech come up na ideas of democracy and transparency. So that's actually really commendable on the youthful people that came up with that idea of the hackathon and the people that won it. Governor Waiguru expands water access for over 30,000 Kirinyaga residents. Every home deserves safe water, every farmer needs irrigation support, and every child deserves to go to school without worrying about unsafe water. That is the future we are building for Kirinyaga, the governor said. So Governor Waiguru expands water access to over 30,000 Kirinyaga residents. You know, sometimes back ilikuwa inasemekana that Governor Waiguru is among the governors that have actually delivered in a two-term period in Kirinyaga. So the people of Kirinyaga have had this governor for 2 different terms. She served in the previous term under Uhuru Kenyatta's ticket, and then she changed under William Ruto. Alisoma dalili mapema, and then she became a governor again. You remember sometimes back impeachment motions zimeletwa kuhusu this governor, and she has always survived. Kuna even other allegations that was saying she might get done with her position as a governor right now and go for a senatorial position come 2027. Just because of a love for the people, or maybe perhaps a love for power. But there's also these allegations that if Matiang'i decides to go solo, the way the Jubilee team has previously hinted, that if the united opposition do not actually rally behind Matiang'i, they might decide to go solo. Then there is conversation that if Matiang'i is going solo, he might be going with Waiguru as the vice. So Governor Waiguru doing this stuff of expanding water access to over 30,000 people just keeps building in a good resume that she has created over this long period of time. And perhaps, I hope she serves so well that even after this, when she is elected either as a senator or promoted to a national position as a vice presidential candidate, or even a vice president, God willing for her, she still serves with the same mandate. Kisumu set to host transgenerational conversation as NCIC amplifies calls for peace. So the lakeside city of Kisumu is tonight set to host transgenerational conversations, a peace initiative led by National Cohesion and Integration Commission in collaboration with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. It's expected to bring together voices across generations and sectors to address emerging societal tensions and promote sustainable peace. Sometimes I really wonder how government allocates funds and resources and for what purposes. Because certain things that government agencies or governmental parastatals do with funds are laughable. National cohesion dialogue is something that has failed number without count. This dialogue, whether it's being done within the political party spectrum or it's being done from the government aspect, it will fail. You remember sometimes back Raila called for this same intergenerational conversation and he was told like this country has had conversation from ever since. And sometimes when you have talked too much and it's not being implemented, it beats every logic to talk again. Now the government right now does not have much favor from the people. The portion of the people that really supports the government is so minimal. So imagine a government agency calling for intergenerational cohesion talk. I hope it goes well for the country of Kisumu. But this also just amplifies how the Nyanza region has been benefiting with things like these delegations going to that place and funding going to the Nyanza region. I would have not been shocked if this was also to be held in Homa Bay. But I wonder which conversation has been held in Turkana, which have been held in Pokot, which have been held in Marakwet and such places since the government came into power. So even if we are having these national conversations, their locations also matter to the national image of the regions that the government prefers or does not prefer. Harambee Stars dropped two places in latest FIFA ranking. So Harambee Stars has dropped to position 112 from position 110, which they held last month's ranking. Uganda is the best placed team in East Africa in position 82, moving two places up while Tanzania is placed on 17th. People have not healed from the Chan conversations. And you remember during Chan, there was a very good interaction between the Kenyan and the Tanzanian people online, and even the Ugandans. And when we all did not qualify past the final, people felt happy that everyone went home. So now in the bigger picture on FIFA qualifications, our brothers from Uganda are way ahead. They're doing very well. They're in position 82. And our brothers from the Kiswahili nation are doing very badly. They are suffering behind us. Facebook owner unveils new AI-powered smart glasses. That's on technology. Uh, mhm. On technology. Oh yes, yes, yes. I have lost that process, but just a while. Okay, it's like we will come back to the Facebook news a little bit later. It has shifted. But on business, a new ECD model transforming childhood education in Laikipia. We are having Mount Kenya University student Dorcas Wangui Wamuyu, who has created a model competency-based curriculum classroom at Manguo Primary School near Nyahururu town, giving young learners a chance to experience real-life situations right inside the classroom. The building looks like an ordinary classroom from the outside, but once you step inside, you'll find a world of discovery for children. Sometimes back I read that actually the best way to develop a child's mind is to put them in a place where they are constantly active or trying to grab something. And this is very commendable again on the youth with this young teacher or young educator from Mount Kenya University who is called Miss Dorcas Wangui, who has now come up with a CBC based classroom in the Mashinani Manguo Primary School near Nyahururu town huko nyumbani, and she's giving now young learners a chance to experience real life situations as a result of that creativity. This is amazing to Miss Dorcas Wangui from Nyahururu. Dubai Farm invests 19 billion in Olkaria Green Park for EV assembly. We have just talked about the Saudi getting into strategic funding partnerships for the affordable housing. And on business news, we are receiving news that Dubai Farm now invests 19 billion in Olkaria Green Park for EV assembly. So it's called Aquilesta Corporate Investment Company plans to spend 19.4 billion, that's around 150 million, towards construction of an electric vehicle assembly plant at the vast Olkaria Green Energy Park in Naivasha. The Dubai-based investment firm says once complete, the plant will produce at least 50,000 units of electric and hybrid vehicles annually. When the assembly of these vehicles started happening, most of them that you see being driven around the streets of Nairobi have the Made in Kenya logo, assembled in Kenya. So Ruto, I think sometimes back highlighted that he wanted to have a transition from the fuel or the petrol-based vehicles to electric vehicles, and this was supposed to be assembled and done locally. I think as a result or as a follow-up of that business arrangement or that conversation that he was talking about, now the Dubai firm invests now has actually invested 19 billion in the vasts of Naivasha, the Olkaria Green area, to develop these cars. So they are projecting, as per this news bite, over 50,000 units of electric cars that will be developed in Kenya annually as a result of that plant. E-procurement here to stay, PS Wagunda. So the National Treasury is trying to digitalize all their processes so that we can bring sanity in the way government is being run. And one of these ways is through the electronic government procurement system. What we are trying to do with EGP is to bring sanity in the way goods and services are procured in government. This is not a punishment, it's bringing out transparency to cut costs and to eliminate corruption. What do you think of the procurement system? When I read things like this, I'd say they look good on paper because sometimes back these were also the same promises were being given when they were talking about the e-citizen thing, where they were promised to cut costs, reduce corruption and such like things. But even in the way the system itself was created, there was a 50 bob convenience fee that was slotted adequately just for corruption. Then later on, we realized that the whole thing was an hoax. And right now, most Kenyans have almost forgotten that about a month ago, we were talking about the billions that were lost through e-citizen. Now, this move to have a procurement here, as PS Wagunda is confirming that it's here to stay, is good because we are moving towards technology. However, without any accountability, we are receiving it with a pinch of salt. That perhaps it might only be good in paper like this, but once everything goes that way, it will only give a few people accesses to these particular procurement platforms, and the few people will have access to these particular procurement platforms might use them for personal gain. But in the general outlook for a country to go that way seems good if the intention will be adhered to, that it's to reduce costs and cut corruption. On to another story. MKU Maritime Academy shines at Blue Economy Summit. So MKU is actually really hitting the headlines for the right reasons this morning. We have just talked about Dorcas Wangui in Nyahururu, who is doing amazing stuff and is from MKU. And now we are being told the MKU Maritime Academy School at the Blue Economy Innovation and Investment Summit 2025, showcasing its growth from a single STCW program to over a dozen specialized maritime courses and hosting key stakeholders in Mombasa. The event aligned with World Maritime Day themes and highlighted MKU's role in driving Kenya's ocean-based economic potential. The expanded offerings draw students closer to global maritime opportunities through strong local and international partnerships. So MKU, Mount Kenya University, as a maritime academy, it's a university that's really diverse. They have a law school, they have that is in Parklands, they have a main campus in Thika, they have a branch in town and other parts of the nation, and they have a maritime academy now in Mombasa. And you see, this is really good for institutions to tap into the maritime space because we have a vast share of the Indian Ocean, and we have a big port that most inland countries in East Africa are using to actually have access of their goods into their countries. So our understanding of everything maritime, everything marine is really, really essential and is beneficial because we have the resources to practice at compared to most African countries that are inland. And Mount Kenya University is commended for being a pioneer in this particular area of creating an academy and even going ahead to launch this investment summit of 2025, where now they have showcased their prowess in that area. So that is in local news, and we're also finding the main story that most media houses are talking about right now is the continuous voter registration, which resumes ahead of 2027 election poll. So right now, irrespective of where you are, you can actually just move to the nearby IEBC station or to the nearby Huduma Center. Now uambie that I want to vote in Muranga, and I am not in Muranga right now, but come 2027, I want my vote to be in Muranga. You could be in Mandera while making that request, Or maybe you can be in Masai Mara and you want to vote in Isiolo, or you want to vote in Turkana. You just go to the Huduma Center in Masai Mara and you tell them that you want to vote in Turkana come 2027 and you will still get your voter card. So you don't have to be next to your ID's background or whatever is written in my ID to get this particular voter card. And we are actually advising the youth from here in the civic lands that this is an opportunity that will run for quite some time. And now you have that opportunity to actually have the voter card so that come 2027 your voice can be heard in deciding who becomes the president of this country and even electing the rest of the other leaderships below the president. So tutumie hii chance kama the young people to have our cards ready ahead of 2027. We have Bybit launches a 4,000 USD university scholarship for Kenya and Ethiopian students. So that's still on local news. So Bybit, second largest cryptocurrency exchange globally in trading volume, today announced the launch of the Bybit Scholarship Program, a new corporate social responsibility initiative designed to empower college and university students in Kenya and Ethiopia. The program offers scholarships of up to 4,000 USD to support students in pursuing their academic and professional goals. Talking technology, talking advancement, when we talk cryptocurrency, it sounds like a far-fetched idea, really, or rather an idea that is taking quite some time to find its rooting locally, which makes sense. But understand the history of this thing and how different countries have taken it, not only the countries like Cayman Islands and such like, there are countries that actually have developed their currency or transitioned their currency from the hard cash to the electronic currency. And Nigeria is among them. The e-Naira. Jamaica has theirs as well. I've forgotten the name of the Jamaica one. Yeah, but the Jamdex is the one that Jamaica uses. And the China is actually are thinking of actually converting theirs into an online currency, but they're still on trial stage. So cryptocurrency works in different ways. There's a common coin that is being used to trade with across all dominions. So it's just like a universal currency based on that coin that is being purchased and sold. But within that particular spectrum of cryptocurrency now, there's the currency aspect of it, where you don't have to actually trade or concern yourself with these coins that are being traded in the market, but your country can develop your currency in a system that it's now an e-currency. So you access your currency in a cryptocurrency space. So if I want to access 1,000 Bob Kenya shillings, instead of accessing it cash or in M-Pesa, I can as well access it in coins that are in cryptocurrency form. So it's a very interesting area, and because some things are moving technology, we project in the next 10 to 15 years, it will be one of the areas where Kenyans or most African countries will be moving towards. And so this scholarship is very, very important. Jubilee Party back on track, Uhuru Kenyatta declares. This is the story I was talking about. So former President Uhuru Kenyatta has announced that the Jubilee Party is back on track and is set to prepare vigorously for the 2027 general election, intending to field candidates for all elective positions nationwide. So this is quoted as what was said. Make no mistake when I say that, like any other political party, we, the Jubilee Party, shall be preparing for the next general election, and in doing so, in earnest, it remains our firm intention to field the best possible candidates for all elective positions. Wow, you see, Jubilee has been on a battle of court cases. It was sometimes back under the leadership of Sabina Chege, who was holding it temporarily. Now the man, Uhuru Kenyatta, has taken full control of that party again. And all the court battles that they were dealing with, I feel right now that is in their past. So they're walking into the scene a little bit late, but still within the times that are required ahead of 2027. Why do I say a little bit late? Jubilee is walking into the scene when ODM has already made the pact with UDA, and everyone else that is remaining as a remnant of the former Azimio, where the Jubilee was also a member of the coalition, has found themselves in a cocoon and called themselves the United Opposition. So Jubilee is waking up to walk into a scene where everyone is already paired out and they are there wondering, how do we go? And in deciding how they go, they have an option of finding themselves with the government, giving the government an offer, or giving the united opposition an offer. And the way it seems, they are most likely not to give the united opposition an offer. Or if they give the united opposition an offer, what our pair, this condition that if their offer is not met, then they are going alone. On the government side, they are most likely to get into union with the government ahead of 2027 because they're just fronting one person to be a president. And this one person they're fronting had served in the previous government of Uhuru Kenyatta. Easily, if the interest of Uhuru Kenyatta are to be fitted in beyond the Jubilee Party, then Matiang'i working with the Ruto can be easily arranged by Raila, Uhuru Kenyatta, and Ruto himself. But if the Jubilee Party interest will take the center stage, and if the united opposition will not play to their tune, they will front candidates for all the seats the way they have said, from president to MCAs in all the wards. So that is the threat they are giving. But they're back on track, and yeah, they're putting their house in order ahead of 2027. Then US revokes Colombian president's visa during UN visit. This is crazy. The president of Colombia was caught making some very sensitive statements, and international news reports to us that US has revoked the Colombian president's visa during UN visit. Kenyan doctors at KNH hailed for groundbreaking successful facial reconstruction surgery. So this is interesting. Kenyatta National Hospital has successfully conducted a 9-hour, first of its kind reconstructive surgery to restore the face of a young boy disfigured during a bandit attack in 2023. This milestone demonstrates that not only our surgeons' skill and determination, but also Kenyans' rising leadership in specialized healthcare. It's a message of hope to patients across Africa and beyond. Really, credit needs to be given where it's due. And Kenyatta National Hospital has been a place where doctors have done amazing things. Also, Kenyatta University Hospital has also been a platform where students have done amazing things. I remember during COVID, they came up with all these ICU stations that were additional to the ones that were there previously for ICU patients. And now they did this 9-hour successful reconstruction surgery. So that's a very good congratulations to our doctors, even in the midst of SHA and everything like this that's going on, and to the medical space for that success. Haiti mission. The body of the late Corporal Kennedy Mutuku Nzuve, who died in Haiti, has been transferred to Chiromo Mortuary and arriving at JKA. So the body of the late Corporal Kennedy Mutuku has been taken to Chiromo after arriving in JKA. Reminds me of the conversation that of the gentleman Benedict, the gentleman that whose family also had been waiting on the information on whether or not he was alive, and they did not know even after petitioning the government agencies for quite some time to give them that information until President Ruto went ahead and disclosed that information while giving his international speech. So now that we have seen the body of Kennedy Mutuku coming back, Corporal, may his soul rest in peace and may his family find solace. We also hope to see the body of Benedict brought so that his family as well can find closure and solace. And Kenyans still go ahead to question this Haiti mission really, if it's costing us the lives of our brothers, you know, yet it's not our issue really what's going on in Haiti. So, ladies and gentlemen, on to the last one. Government injects Kenya shillings 2.1 billion for electricity supply in Kakamega. So Kakamega County alone has been allocated 2.1 billion. By December this year, we expect 33,507 households to have been connected to national electricity grid. From the funds, Lugari constituency has been allocated 194 million to connect over 6,000 households. This is amazing. This is amazing because it's a policy of the government. It was actually an affirmative action decision that by 2030, almost all households in Kenya be connected to electricity. So as part of the 2030 vision on connecting the country all over with electricity, this move is commendable. But we are yet to see if all these households that they have talked about, 33,507, will be connected by December this year, now that 194 million has been given to that effect. Kenya endorses Global Cancer Fund to strengthen equity cancer care. Ex-deputy president congratulates Malawi's Mutharika, describes victory as milestone for Africa's democracy. There is nothing that plays into Gachagwa's fantasies right now like Malawi's one term. And so he has come out to say that Malawi has reminded us that Africa's citizens are awake, they see, they feel, they think, they act. Gachagua remarked, noting that Kenya can draw strength from Malawi's example as it prepares for the 2027 elections. So he was quoted to say, just like our Malawian brothers and sisters, we must reject fear and cynicism, reject hopelessness, and reclaim our future through democratic means. As I said, nothing excites Rigiji right now than Malawi's one term, and also the way the former president of Malawi has received his loss or his defeat is commendable. Thank you for keeping it here at the Civic Lens on this episode of news from all over the world and all over the country. We will do this every day, so stay tuned for this live here at the Civic Lens that brings to you news from all over the country, all over the world as they happen and as they reach us. Thank you. This is the Civic Lens.